The first document we'll review while discussing Module B is the fact verification, or rubric for Module B. You'll notice it looks very much like the rubric or verification for Module A. You will need to complete this by inserting your name, highlighting or circling your support provider, your school site, and then telling us what subject you're teaching or subjects you're teaching. When we look at Module B, the purpose of the assessment of teaching and learning is for you to consider your prior knowledge and skills during teacher preparation. In addition, we want to look at the current context in which you teach, which is what we looked at in Module A. So we're going to take into account that information about your students, your community, and your site. And we're going to add to those two things evidence gathered by your support provider during an observation. Then you will perform some self-assessments compared to standards so that you can really open up some questions and inquiry as to your current practice and areas where you feel like you would like to grow. So as with Module A, on the left-hand side is the name of the particular evidence tool or document. In this case, the first one is B2. Notice there's no B1. And here is a description of what we would anticipate to see on this tool or document. You will not be filling this out. The reviewers will fill out it is either accepted or the teacher will need to resubmit with more information. We have B2, we have B3, which is an observation tool. B4 is a post-observation reflection. E2.1, 2.5, 2.6, 2.6a, and 2.6b are the standards where we're asking you to discuss your strengths and challenges. You will notice here it follows a certain pattern. We're going to be asking you some questions about your practice. Your support provider is going to observe you. What is not noticeable here is you will need a lesson plan for that, and we'll discuss that when we get to that tool. Post-observation reflection. You'll notice this says Module B, Assessment of Teaching and Learning. We also are including the E self-assessments as a part of Module B. Here you see B2, it's called a KWO chart. And right here, you can see that it's based on what you know about your instructional practice. For example, down here, I create an environment of respect. The students understand the routines. My students are able to learn from student groupings. In other words, what do you feel like is something of a strength of yours? What do you know about your teaching and your class practice? We then go, what do I want to know? So for example, we might say, I want to know how to best modify or accommodate special population students in my classroom. Or what kind of scaffolding can I employ for my level 1 learners and still not disengage my level 4 learners? What are the things you really would like to know more about? And then the third is what I would like my support provider to observe. Your support provider will come in and observe one of your classes. And so what are the things that you really want them to look for? If we look back at our haiku page for Year 1, Module B, you will see B3 Initial Classroom Observation. On this page, you'll find very short series of directions, some that have already been covered in the video. In the observation by support provider, we will need to receive your lesson plan for that class no later than 24 hours before the actual observation. This gives us the opportunity to review it so that we're ready for your class and know that we're going to be able to come in and do an observation that will be helpful to you. You will find on this same page 2 items. This one is an EEI lesson plan template with descriptions, and then the initial classroom observation. The observation form is completed by your support provider, sent to you, and then you upload that observation document. Let's click on the lesson plan template. Once that's downloaded, we can see that there are sections to this lesson plan, and here you see an example of what that might look like in a classroom. It's not incredibly detailed. It's intended, again, to be a template. If you feel that things in your lesson plan are in a different in a different order in your practice, then that's fine. This helps you to see that there needs to be a lesson objective, teacher objective, maybe broken down in parts, but in student language. So this will allow us to begin to really prepare for your observation. Again, we need to receive your lesson plan at least 24 hours prior to the observation, and you can email that to us. Here is the Form B3, the observation one I mentioned previously. Again, this is completed by your support provider. It may look like this form. There is another form that has a more vertical format, but they are essentially the same. Your support provider will come in, will specifically observe for those areas that you shared that you wanted to have observed, and also observed for each CSTP and each induction standard. This will be completed and returned to you within about 2 days, sometimes sooner. We often type it up and email it to you so that you can review it before we have a reflective conversation. Okay, the final form that's labeled with a B is B4. Notice it says, with your support provider, use evidence from the observation to capture key insights about your teaching. Before you meet with your support provider, but after you've delivered the lesson, you first want to reflect yourself. What are the key insights you had after delivering this lesson? What is your reflection without any input from your support provider? Here, we can note the shared information that came from your readings through the notes from the support provider and the conversation. And then finally, perhaps there were additional insights you had, or things that you may want to work on, or things where you recognize that you've made progress, and we want to make sure we capture these here. These are not full narrative paragraphs. They can be bullets, anything where you're expressing to someone else what insights you gained from that experience. Please continue on after you have uploaded your files for B4 post-observation reflection. You'll notice on the left-hand side, still under Module B, we have self-assessments, CSTPs, and induction standards. You will need to self-assess your practice based on those two sets of standards, and if you click on this page, you will find information and a video to help you complete those two.